So with me today, I have archaeologist and documentary host Professor Darius Arya. Now, Darius has been featured on many channels across the globe, such as BBC, Channel 4, PBS, National Geographic, the History Channel, and now he's finally made it here to Wandering Everywhere. All right, so first of all, could you tell me a little bit more about how he got into archaeology?
I mean, for me, it's several factors. I think like a lot of people fall in love with classical languages and ancient civilizations through language. But even earlier still, a lot of people, I'd say, that I know growing up in the States like I did, it was through stories, it was through art, it was through Greek mythology. So I can take it all the way back to sixth grade, where I really got fascinated with just some exercise or whatever, and we were reading some of these stories, and then we were getting, in our little library, bigger books, and I just exhausted all those, and then I went to the public library and so forth. And then my mother had taken some classes when she was in university, and she was saying, well, there's just a whole world that's there, and there are all these references to mythology. It's a wonderful thing to really explore. And then because, versus the young people of today where they have everything at their fingertips, for me, it was going to a museum, and then there was the bookstore in the museum. And it was, going to that local bookshop and then, ordering a book and so forth and having to wait for it to arrive. And nothing was immediate. So it just sort of added layer upon layer. A great trip as a child was going to the Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C. And again, that was really getting my first real exposure to ancient civilizations and materials from other cultures. I'm Iranian American, so it was really neat. There was a great exhibition on Darius the Great, so that was a lot of fun, just kind of connecting just different ways in which you can get to ancient history. And then it accelerated into taking Latin in junior high, taking Latin and Greek in high school, and then finally continuing my studies in college. I had the opportunity to study abroad, and that really, again, opened up a lot of doors. I did have one trip also in what we call junior high. So I was about 13 or so. We did a trip to Europe. And out of all the places I went to, kind of on the U-Rail pass, taking the ferry across from London over to France and, for England to France, and then going around a lot to Germany, finally making it to Italy. Well, then, wow. I mean, it just blew me away, particularly seeing things like the Roman Forum, the Colosseum, and so on. And, just things came together like that kind of organically, even though I had a whole level of resistance. Like, I don't want to be an academic. I don't want that. I don't want to do that. And so I kind of backed myself into it because I really wasn't in love with a lot of the culture. I wasn't in love with what I saw in university. It just felt, for me, kind of restrictive and so forth. So I just went off on my own in a different direction. But everyone has to find that happy medium.
Hmm. Okay, and then you were a lecturer, and then you moved on to, showing your episodes on PBS, National Geographic, the History Channel. How did you make that leap?
So for me, again, in all this work, it ended up being location, location, location. Mm-hmm. So I studied I did that one trip when I was in junior high. I came back and studied a semester in Rome in a specific classical studies program, a fantastic, inspiring program, fantastic students and teachers and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I kept on coming back every summer, and since '92, and I've lived here over 20 years. So the transition then became, how can I do this? How can I be there amidst all of this, as opposed to, that normal reality? You're in a university or something in America, and you come over, you do an excavation, you do a project, you do research, you get a sabbatical. I just didn't want to go that route. So I was trying to figure it out. And so I co-founded a nonprofit, which has been around since 2002, running our own programs and so forth and excavations. And just as it got started, people started reaching out to me saying, hey, we see that you're there. Your organization looks really interesting. Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And then I had talked with a number of, well-established academics in the US and the UK and so forth. And, I kind of got a sense of what the talking head was and what that really meant. And it's very short-lived and it's very short-term. And, generally they want you because you have some specialty in something and that's it. but my experience with that grew just because, you know, people liked my vibe or my attitude or delivery and so forth. And to be honest with you, there really aren't that many people from the U.S.
Mm.
really, if you think about it, that are involved in archaeology and history. So it just kind of grew from there, and then kind of ups and downs because obviously reality TV was taking over for a while, you know, 2006, 2007, and so on. But here I am. I'm still doing it, so having a lot of fun with it. It's grown in many ways, and it's wonderful. But I mean, it really started with the fact that I think it's because I was here in Rome, as opposed to being in some far off location. I kind of radiate Romanness, you know, in my daily existence.
Yeah. So you never actually expected to do this?
Well, no, I mean, you know, I guess everyone wants to have a crack at it and wants to try it, and you know, you see a lot of people doing it with degrees of success and so forth. Obviously, every audience is different, you know, so every channel is different, every country's different, different expectations, and different deliveries. So I had done some, you know, theater and drama things when I was a kid. I had a little bit of that experience, but you know, that no, I never really thought about doing it at all. But having done it, lets you reach a large audience, so it's great in many ways.
Yeah. Okay. So then, ancient invisible cities. What is your favorite thing that it's allowed you to experience?
Well, I think one of the great things about Ancient Visible Cities was that we were able then to work closely with this fantastic team, Scan Labs,
Mm-hmm.
just to see their work. And as we're, you know, as you do a show, you always have a time crunch, you have limitations, you have problems and permits and this and accessibility and dangers and whatever. But that team, to work alongside them, the pressure that they had, and just kind of interact with them as we're going through our own narrative, seeing what they're doing, it was intense. It was fun, and it was just another layer of documenting the past. And sometimes the team would scale up. There'd be 15, 16 people working in different locations simultaneously, or the drones and the helicopters. And I was so desperate to get in the helicopter with them, but it just, you know, didn't work out. But it just, so I think that was one of the great things, was that essential work became more of a protagonist. And at the same time, it just really, I think, was a good part of the narrative, and it was a lot of fun.
Hmm. So how long have you been in Rome for now?
I mean, I always say about 20 years, so I guess it's been about 20 years.
Okay.
It's been a while. And
Yeah.
I mean, the thing also, I mean, I was finishing up, so I was doing my PhD for University of Texas in Austin, and I had a number of fellowships. So having the fellowships then gave me a chance. At Fulbright is an American fellowship, the American Academy in Rome. You know, a lot of countries have academies. There's a British school in Rome. So to have those kinds of opportunities to do firsthand research, get close to the material and so forth, obviously speaking Italian all the time, has been a great opportunity. And really ironically, almost out of all the American material that I've done on TV, I got offered the opportunity, and I've done now 2 seasons of Italian TV. So that's very nice, because it's not my first language, and you know, you know, generally speaking, you look at, you know, 99% of the TV in Italy, and it's done by Italians. So to be able to be on national TV and to engage people, the feedback on that has been very, very, very nice. And you know, it should be done more, but the fact that, you know, people are very accommodating with the language and so forth, they just thought, you know, here's another person giving their take on the history, which is, you know, not something that I grew up with. You know, my kids are going to school in Italian schools. One of them is finishing up high school, so she'll be in Liceo, and she's going to go to university next year. And it's like the things that they have, I've seen it just them growing up, what they take for granted, and what they, you know, what they know when the time to leave Liceo is what anybody knows getting an undergraduate university degree, let's say in America, hands down. Just the amount of exposure to all of this. It's just, they're spoiled, you know? So it's neat then to be able to talk to that audience that's grown up with that on Italian TV.
Yeah, how long did it take you to learn Italian? Because I watched an interview where you were spoken to in Italian and in fluent Italian. You're just, you know,
Well, I mean, everyone. I mean, I say two words and everyone knows I'm a foreigner.
okay.
But it's just been through being here. I mean, imagine every summer since 1992 except for one. So that's a lot of summers, and
Mhm.
then straight since '98. And sure, there's I do a lot of work in English, of course, but I live here. I don't live in some English speaking bubble. So it is what it is. And of course, there's always something you're not going to get, something you didn't grow up with. I mean, we've had all these regulations with lockdown, and I think we had like 5 or 6 over a period of like 5 or 6 weeks. And it's like, oh my God, there's another 12 pages of what you can and can't do. What happened now? I got to read through it. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
you just do it. But so I don't know with the nuances and so forth. Even my kids going to Italian schools, like we didn't do math like that.
Yeah.
But math is math. Right? Math is math, but it's different. And it's just so it's been a big learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you why you chose Rome out of anywhere else in the world, but I mean, it's pretty obvious your passion and, love for Rome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, we were writing and just conversing before we had this talk today, and you said Rome, Athens. Why? And it was kind of like, I mean, nothing against anyone who studies Greek, and I have great friends who are professors at the University of Athens, graduate school friends from Greece, and I got to meet John Camp and the people at the school in Athens, and I mean, wonderful, wonderful people. But it's like, it's just like anything, something strikes you, something really grabs you, so that ostensibly, when I'm looking at study abroad programs, and my classics department at the University of Pennsylvania said, well, listen, there's a really great program in Athens, and there's this really great program in Rome. And I said, is this a trick question? Because but I mean, it's, what really captivated you? Were you captured by Plato and Socrates, or were you enamored with the Parthenon? I mean, I think things like that kind of resonate, the mythology and so forth. And for me, much more of it was, the Roman engineering and so forth. So it's just one of those, Augustus, and I've started studying with a great, preeminent Augustan, scholar, Carl Galinsky. So those sort of, this is graduate school. So I guess those things kind of just, work themselves out like that. So,
Yeah.
but the problem is, what I should have done was I should have spent more time as a graduate student in Greece. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the whole thing. It's like, there are mistakes along the way. Should have taken that fellowship in Berlin, et cetera. But that's the way it works. Don't always do the things that you should have done.
Yeah. So then what would you say to people that visit Rome but only see the Trevi Fountain or the Colosseum? Like, what gems do they miss?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, everyone's time is limited. You've got a budget. You've got, you know, how are you seeing this? Are you seeing this where everything is being led, from place to place? Therefore, they're going to hit some of the greatest hits and so forth.
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of variables. But if you can, and especially now, I think what's going to be much tougher in the near future is going to venues like the Colosseum, the Vatican, and so forth, because they're drastically, in the short term, going to have to reduce their numbers. So it's going to be, I don't want to say it's unpleasant, but it's just going to be very difficult. They're opening up the museums. I have a reservation to go to the Capitoline Museums tomorrow.
Mhm.
And, it's timed and so forth. So just imagine, before all these places, there's no timed entrance. Now everything's going to be timed entrance, spacing people out and so on and so forth. But I think that one of the great things you can do when you come to the city is wander about. It's actually pretty small. And maybe, take a look at 10, 20 sites, 30 sites, and say, I'm going to go to these places. A lot of these places I can just see just because they're there, the Pantheon and so forth,
Mhm.
and kind of take them in. And if you can, just let the people go by, because even when they're, tourism is low, or there's really no tourism right now, there's an ebb and flow, and you get a feel of that dynamic. I mean, the light changes, the clouds pass. I mean, I'm all into that kind of thing. So just, I think it will resonate more with you, if you can just slow down. But look, when I go to a site, you know what I do? I'm like in the army. I've got my stuff. I've studied that. I've read my articles. I've got my map. I'm going to go here, here, here. But it's more, because that, for me, in a certain sense, is not even fun. It's like a job. You know, when am I coming back to this place? So don't do, I should practice what I preach, but, you know, it just depends on what the mode is. You know what I mean? And if I'm with my kids and so forth.
So then what would you say is the best pizza in Rome?
Oh, God. Pizza? What's the best pizza? No. What's your favorite pizzeria?
Oh.
The best pizza in Rome is in Naples.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Don's talking about. Yeah.
I'm Roman. I'm a hardcore Roman.
Yeah.
The best pizza.
Yeah, best pizza.
Sorry.
Best pizza. Wait. Excuse me. Let the dog speak. Oh, okay. Sorry. So this is how it works now. Anyways, no, the best Roman pizza is in Naples. I'm not joking, but you know, in the classics like Buffetto and Monte Carlo, those are two classics. You know, it's weird because even Emma is a great restaurant that offers many things, but you know, but pizza is also one of them, and that's kind of in my neighborhood. But you know, the pizza of Rome is thin crust. And then, you know, the pizza of Naples, where pizza was invented, it's more doughy, it's more chewy, and so forth. So that's more of my preference. I've tried Neapolitan pizzas in Rome. No, just go to Naples. Just take the train down. It's only an hour.
Yeah, I've never been to Naples.
Naples?
Yeah,
Oh, Naples is great. Naples has got a great vibe going on. Wonderful people. They've been doing really well. I just feel like, again, right now everything's out of whack, right, because of COVID-19. But I think before all this, you know, crazy over tourism and so on, I'd say it'll feel more authentic being in Naples than it will in Rome. Rome was just getting exaggerated. I mean, I don't know what the fallout's going to be. I don't know what they're going to be doing better. I mean, in the end, the direction has to come from the top down. It has to come from not even the Ministry of Culture, but it has to be the mayor. What do they want to do? Like, they've been busy working on roads like crazy during lockdown. That was their chance to install a bunch of bike lanes. I mean, what kind of city do we want to have?
Yeah.
Some big questions right now. I don't know how they'll ultimately resolve them, or, you know, in a year and a half, it'll go back to the way it was. You know, do they want ships back in the lagoon in Venice, or do they not want cruise ships anymore? It's up to them, you know. Either way, it's going to have a major impact on Venice.
So what is your favorite part of lesser known history?
Well, you mean in Rome, or I'm sorry, what do you mean?
In general, what's just a fun lesser known history fact that you have?
Okay, here's a lesser known fact. Colosseum's behind me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have seen it clean on the outside. And they think, well, that's it. Great job. But actually, it's a huge comprehensive plan. They're turning out to the inside of the same structures and walls, the interior spaces, which if you go into today, a lot of them are still black. They've started to work and consolidate the substructures, which is called the hypogeum. And it kind of jumped out there maybe a year ago, this discourse about, are they going to put a permanent floor over the entire thing, which, you know, I don't know the final word, but I think the tendency is to do so to make it more accessible and accommodate people, get them in the center, as opposed to being kind of a restrictive little area where there's a floor built on. But the final step, if you look behind me, off to the side by the Arch of Constantine, there's a little hillside, just an artificial mound, just, you know, human, you know, debris of various periods. And that's where there's going to be basically like a welcome center, a kind of focal point for people's new kind of entry into the Colosseum space. So you're just seeing the start. And on the other side, that's where the Metro C line is joining Metro B. So just in terms of, you know, you think you know the Colosseum, you've been there, there's the Metro stop for Metro B, and you go inside and that's it. There's actually a massive comprehensive plan around the entire area of what we do call the Valley of the Colosseum. And I'd say, you know, in 5 years, that experience will be radically different. Let's all hope it's for the best. You're going to have a third line that's going to have a huge underground space, and you're going to have this new kind of center, which really, ostensibly, the Coliseum doesn't have. You kind of go in, see things, and leave. I mean, it's been a huge plus that now there's a permanent exhibition space on the Coliseum inside, and there's even a rotating exhibit space that's happening. But there's just going to be a lot more that's involved with the Coliseum. I think it'll enhance people's experience of the Coliseum for the future.
Yeah,
so that's something I don't think most people are aware of, and it's,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
We'll see. I don't know. Who knows when it's going to be done? That's the other caveat,
Yeah. So then, what is your dream project? What's that one thing that you'd love to work on?
I want to we're working on our publications for previous excavations. So that's a dream to get that done, so it doesn't become a nightmare. That's obviously a huge responsibility, and we're making a lot of progress. So that really is just, that's the low-hanging fruit that we have to complete.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one really is, this kind of work that we're doing. I know it's not just a numbers game, and I know that we have a great reach and impact, but I just want that to be much more present as a resource to a lot of people. And as people are discovering that, they're getting back to me and feedback and so forth. It's great, but we just want this to be on a more, ultimately a sustainable kind of level, and something that a lot of people from different walks of life will take advantage of the resource. It's just not easy. It'd be great if a lot of the great institutions and academic associations and so forth that know what we're doing would lend a little support and would share more and shout out and retweet and so forth. But I haven't been able to count on that, which is unfortunate. It comes down more to the individual level. But we're getting some great partnerships. Worked with Museum Week, which was a fantastic time. We're working with 4 or 5 archaeological sites here in Italy. We'll be filming inside museums and archaeological sites as soon as they work out the whole process now. But it's going to be probably about the end of May. So we're really excited about all those resources. The end game, though, is that a lot of people discover those resources, use those resources to learn, and use those resources in their teaching. Because nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is giving that stuff, for free.
Yeah. Okay. So next, how do you use social media platforms to bring Roman history to audiences? I mean, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, this has been really kind of it's been tricky because I was in Rome, but then we couldn't leave. We literally had a serious hard lockdown. You were only going out to the pharmacy, getting groceries, or the hospital. That was the only reason why you could leave. Or you were an essential worker, you had to go to work and so forth. So it was really brutal. Mm-hmm. And literally nobody was out. It was like a ghost town. And I live in the center. It was just really strange. So on March 15th, I started doing these bi-weekly webinars. And that's what's really been going well, and people appreciate it. We've reached, a big audience. And the way I'm seeing it now, I just read, Cambridge won't be open for the whole next year, school year and so forth. I figure this is a chance to really dig in and continue to grow the audience, to give them stuff, particularly now because we can go outside. Mm-hmm. But it's really been, I know a lot of professional photographers from the experience in Instagram, and they're, showing all their travels. And it's kind of heartbreaking because you're just sitting somewhere, just sharing your travels. But so part of it was trying to craft conversation, not just with the images, but to tie it into all that material that we've made on ancientromelive.org, have the YouTube channel. And so that's been an opportunity to flesh out a lot of the material that we have. We have 4 great interns this summer. One's a business student, one's a marketing person, one's a journalism student, one's a communication student. But everyone is what we call a classics minor. So, and that's also kind of the future that I see with the kind of people that we're working with. We're trying to reach out. And that's really what we did. I mean, they're great organizations, and I mean, academic and so forth. And I think that they're then talking to that academic kind of audience. We're really trying to reach out to everybody out there, because people want to learn all the time, not just lifelong learners, which is another category. We're kind of cast the wide net to everybody. And that's kind of been our attitude on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook Lives. And I think everything is a little bit different too. Most people don't inhabit all those spaces. They're just on Twitter.
Yeah.
They're only on Instagram. They have a YouTube channel. So we're across the board. And I think that's been very helpful.
What would you say to people that are trying to produce their own shows and trying to, be on the History Channel, National Geographic? Do you have any advice for them?
Good luck. It's very fickle. Yeah, I don't think you can really plan to make a career about that. I want to be on one of these TV shows. It doesn't really work that way. You get a lucky break. You do something else and it gets acknowledged. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a way to do it. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it really happens. I think it's a lot of it's going to come from core competency. Get your degree, spend your time in a particular field, whether you're a scientist or biologist or an astrophysicist or whatever.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I've met lots of people that are doing things. If you want to do that, if you're interested, nowadays you just, I don't say create your brand, but as you're going through your studies and so forth, start the conversations. It's easier to have conversations, to voice what you believe in, but also to talk with people that probably know a lot more. So talk with them on Twitter. That's a great place to have those communications. I know zillions of professionals and journalists and people in the field. That's a great way to communicate. It's pretty informal. I always underline that be professional in that sense. Like, I don't encourage anyone to be, unless you want to get into politics, don't be political, please don't insult anyone and so on and so forth. Stand for what you believe in, but just be very, very careful. It's a very slippery slope. So if you're going out there to make a brand, decide what your values are that you want to convey. I personally don't involve too much in my family, but some people, maybe the whole thing is, children in fashion or something. So they're going to show you your children. I mean, make up the decision of what you want to do and then invest in understanding Twitter and Instagram. And now you'll see me shortly on TikTok. YouTube is a good, what's good about YouTube is that it has an index. So yes, you have a website or you have a blog, but another great thing about, YouTube is that people can come back to it. And then you can reshare it in different ways, and you can link on the other social media channels and so on. But hey, okay, just got my reading glasses stolen. Anyways, so just try to be flexible. Those young people out there is a chance to be experimental.
Yeah.
Right? Experimental. But remember, this stuff, it's gonna leave. It's gonna be there in the future. So just consider all those things. I'm an advocate of just keep it positive, and no matter what you do, and really think about, your persona per se, protect your privacy, and find people, kind of gravitate towards some people, kind of go-to people, and you see how they handle issues, because there can be nastiness, there can be pettiness. And my wife's a journalist. She always says, a lot of social media it's more like everyone's back in high school, and that's pretty much it. So the mean comment, the this, the that, but those things are going to exist. So be prepared for that. But at the same time, if you want to be a communicator, these are incredible channels. I don't know when Facebook is going to go away or Twitter is going to be passé and so forth. So and YouTube. That is the number one learning place in the world. It's the number 2 search engine after Google itself. It's just going on to YouTube. So these are great places. And if academia doesn't want to invest or doesn't think it's worthwhile, well, it's their loss. Some museums are doing a great job. I've done work with the Getty. I think the Getty does a wonderful job, has great material. They can be a little more savvy, but institutions, some of them have invested well. The Uffizi is doing a great job. I met the director, Schmidt, a couple of times. Just awesome. So there's much to be gained, whether or not you are an institution or a museum. But so you as an individual too can benefit. And then the other thing is just consistency and time.
Mhm.
So if you have the goods, if you're doing something well, I'm not talking using high tech and all that stuff, you can really reap the benefits over time. So like I can say, shoot, I really should have done YouTube 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, but I was doing other things and so forth. But now I'm investing more time in YouTube. Just figure out what works for you, what space you want to invade. But always remember, do more than one, because you really don't know what the future will be for all of these things. Things change rapidly. Don't necessarily have to follow the fads, but if something connects with you and it looks like it's really going to be something good for you, then do it. I did a whole bunch of live streaming right when it debuted, and I got a lot of recognition for that and a good audience and so on and so forth. So see what works for you. Not everybody wants to be in front of the camera. A lot of people, they work behind the camera. You don't even know who they are. Sometimes I like someone on Twitter and I find out it's 3 people, it's not a person. It's, what is that? So it's nice to know though, that they're, connected with a real person. So anyways, just some ideas to consider as you're involved. But remember too, what's happening with TV. I mean, what's TV for someone who's 18 years old? I know what my 18-year-old does. When has she ever gone on and found, looked at a channel on TV as opposed to a Netflix or, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know what the future is for documentaries. Maybe we're watching much more on Netflix. I don't know. But the point is, there's a demand for it, and I don't think the demand is being met.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Take it and go in different directions.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, last thing, do you have anything you'd like to mention, such as a YouTube channel?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I direct the American Institute for Roman Culture. So that's romanculture.org. It's a nonprofit. We've been in Rome working away, teaching university programs, expediting 13 years, high school programs, and so forth. Now we really focus online. So romanculture.org is the main webpage with news, like a weekly blog and so forth. The website where we now have a learning platform is ancientromelive.org. And you can follow also bi-weekly webinars that I host from Rome, sometimes on location, sometimes on a particular topic. Wednesdays is geared for kids. Sundays for everybody, always at 7 p.m. Rome time. And the YouTube channel is We Dig Rome. So youtube.com/We Dig Rome. And on social media, all channels, it's at Save Rome, because we're interested in preserving this ongoing legacy of Rome. So it's really big picture Rome and empire. Then for me, I'm all Darius Arya Digs, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website, and I have a new YouTube channel, and it's just Darius Arya. So check it out. It's a lot of fun Rome content, and the Institute here is really pushing out, looking for always for collaboration, and just getting the message out about history is something exciting and fun, and there are different ways to learn it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Great. You're welcome.
Thanks. It's been fun.
All right, take care. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.